Latest football news, engaging debates,
and fascinating opinions.
Pitchside Talk on IO Radio.
Hello and welcome to Pitchside Talk here on IO Radio. It's Fridays at 5 p.m. with me, George, and always joined by Dan, our League One expert, who's not had a great week as an Ipswich Town fan, but he's been having that for the last 2 years, really, or for the rest of his life, really, if it's Ipswich Town fan. Isn't that right, Dan?
Yeah, it seems like it. It seems like this is never going to end, isn't it? We're going to be stuck in League One forever. Keep getting knocked out of first round of cups, and yeah, just depressing time. But apart from that, I'm all right.
Apart from that, he's all right. So that's always that's the main thing. He's always all right. Well, before we get into what's coming up on the show today, we've got our social medias: Twitter at Pitchside Talk, Instagram Talk_pitch, YouTube Mixcloud Pitchside Talk. If you want to listen back to any of our pre-shows, or even this one, if you missed anything out of the show today, it'll be up Fridays at 6 p.m. on YouTube and Mixcloud. Well, what have we got coming on the show today? We've got Ipswich Town. We've got 2 games in 4 days again, but don't worry, they've now got a week's break, really, a nice little time where they can get away from football and just stay at home, really, because we can't go anywhere. As we are in lockdown part 2, apparently. We've got the Premier League. I was back for another week before they went on international duties. And we're going to be reflecting on the championship season. It's been quite, chaotic, I think we can say, with some unexpected leaders and some big teams down the bottom of the table. One of them I won't mention because my mate won't be very happy about if I mention it just before we get to that part of the show. So yeah, when we come back, we're going to be talking about Ipswich Town, the FA Cup, the Papa's John's Trophy games. I wonder how they went.
Stay up to date with the latest footy news.
Pitchside Talk on IO Radio.
Well, welcome back to Pitchside Talk here on IO Radio. It's Fridays 5 p.m. with me, George, and Dan. As always, and before we get moving on into the show, we better mention the social medias: Twitter at Pitchside Talk, Instagram Talk_pitch, YouTube and Mixcloud Pitchside Talk. If you want to listen back to any of our previous shows, or even this one, it'll be up Fridays at 6 p.m. And well, Dan, we better get into it. Ipswich Town once again played 2 games in 4 days, but this time they're both in the cup, not in the league. A nice little refreshing change, I think we can say. But firstly, starting off in the FA Cup Saturday, it was on the BBC, so a lot of people could watch it. And Ipswich crashed out in the first round, the first time in 60 years, as Portsmouth won 3-2 in extra time, thanks to possibly some questionable decisions once again from the referee. But Dan, it's just gone wrong. But for once, Ipswich looked like a very, very good side, as we can say. And they did quite well against a side that are possibly pushing for promotion in League One in Portsmouth.
In the second half, definitely, yeah. I think the first half, we weren't really in the game, were we? Obviously, they scored 2 quite poor goals. I think the first one they scored, mistake from Cornell in goal. I think it hit the post and hit the back of him and went in. And then the second goal, really poor defending, deflection, easy goal for Portsmouth. And they were 2-0 up, and I thought after 15 minutes, we're out of the cup already. What's the price? But yeah, we weren't really in it until Nolan scored. And like Sunderland, as soon as we scored, we looked like a different team. And we came out second half and we looked much better. I think the midfield looked much more, they had much more energy in the second half. And then we made it 2-2. Obviously, Nord coming on and scoring that goal, which is good. And I think we should have done more after we scored that second goal to try and go and win it. Because I think with the way we were performing, we could have done. But, it came to full time. And it was 2-2 extra time, and I don't know what happened, but I think we brought Judge on at the end of the game and going into extra time, and it completely, I don't know, all the momentum went. And I mean, we were okay, but I think Portsmouth had the better chances. We looked really tired, and yeah, I don't know what happened between the at full time and extra time. It just completely changed, and Portsmouth looked on top, and I thought, here we go, this is going to be a win for Portsmouth. But we held on through pretty much all of extra time until the last few minutes, where, yeah, we know what happened. It was think it was a free kick, and then it might have been cleared away and put back into the box. It was clearly offside because there was a player on the line. There was a Portsmouth player on the line, but as always, that's what we have to deal with. The refs that can't officiate a game properly, or a linesman as well. He should have been able to see that. But we're at the cup again. Deja vu. I think the last time I was against Blackpool, like in 2010. I think the last time we made it past the third round, and we're going out in the first round now, which it shows how low we've got. But yeah, another depressing result against a top 6 side in League One again, which is worrying as well.
Yeah, not a great result, but Lambert, after the game, he wasn't too happy with some of those decisions, saying there must be a voodoo doll somewhere for these decisions to go against him. But do you feel, once again, these bad decisions have cost us? Because there was possibly a penalty shout. Hawkins has been pulled back. That was a penalty in my eyes. The offside, it was going in. It was going in anyway, but, I think the Portsmouth player touched it, and he's apparently a lone player from Norwich, which has rubbed a little more the wounds. But do you feel that bad decisions have just cost it us again, just time and time again?
I think in a way it has cost us. Obviously, we know against Sunderland there was 2 dodgy decisions, I'll say, that went against us. And again in the Portsmouth game, that was obviously a penalty. Hawkins' shirt is being pulled. I don't know how he didn't give that, to be honest. Considering the penalty that we gave away in the Sunderland game. And then I think they should have had a red card as well. There was a tackle in there that was probably worse than Dazell's, and he got away with it. And then obviously the offside. But yes, we can say all we want that decisions are going against us, but we still weren't good enough to win the game. I think, we had a good second half, but overall, we still weren't good enough to win it. Because in extra time, we just showed nothing pretty much, and it was quite frustrating. I think decisions are going against us, but Lambert can't just blame the officiating for our results. Obviously, the Lincoln game, he blamed the officials, which I don't really understand because, again, we weren't good enough to win the game. The Sunderland game, I blame the officials at the time, but did we really do enough to win it? I think a draw probably would have been fair. And now Portsmouth, we didn't do enough to win it, and we blame the officials. We can't keep doing that. So we're just going to have to put up with it, I guess, and see how we go.
Yeah, we'll have to put up with it. But moving away from the negatives of the game, let's look at some positives. Brent McGaffin, he started this game and played the whole time, which is great to see. He looked very solid in midfield. He did quite well. Ipswich have been missing that sort of player in midfield. The player's going to stay back a lot since Downs' injury. And Downs, not really been playing since last season, unfortunately. But do you feel that he's now possibly booked himself a place in Lambert's side for the 2 big games coming up against Shrewsbury and Hull next week? Will Lambert keep him in? But youngsters are a bit of a problem with Lambert sometimes. We've got Dobra, who's a fantastic player, and he's nowhere near any of the sides.
That is a problem. But I think that after the performance against Portsmouth, I think he's definitely getting close. I expect him to be starting one of the next 3 games because obviously Dazell is out with a suspension. The safe bet would to just straight away put Hughes in there, but I think putting McGavin in there will give us something different. And I think he did really well against Portsmouth. I think the second half he definitely showed. I think he's a similar player to Dazell in that he can pick a pass and he's got that fight in him as well. I think he's not. I don't think he's a Downs type of player where he can go and win the ball if he's lost it and stuff like that. But he definitely looks a really good player, and I think he definitely gave Lambert something to think about. I'd really like to see him maybe start, even probably coming off the bench against Shrewsbury. I don't think he'll be playing against the bigger teams, but let's wait and see. Obviously, Dazell's suspension has given him a chance. So yeah, I think he's showing that he's definitely getting closer to a first team place, and I really look forward to seeing what he can do because he looks like a great player.
Well, we're now probably speaking about that. He'll probably want to be Hughes, Nolan, and Judge in midfield for the next game.
Yeah,
And he'll
yeah,
be
it will
nowhere to
be,
be seen,
definitely.
unfortunately. Well, secondly, James Norwood returned to the squad 3 weeks ahead of schedule thanks to a tricky start, thanks to a hamstring problem, and also some other problems away from the pitch. But he came off the bench and made an instant impact, scoring inside 4 minutes. I had to say it was a really nice goal. It's a good
It
goal,
was,
you know.
yeah, it was.
It's a nice goal, but it looks like Norwood has returned at the perfect time for Ipswich Town. You know, Hawkins struggling at the moment with goals. I know he has scored. He's broken his duck, thank God, but he hasn't been as consistent as people thought he will be. Could Norwood returning add that finishing touch to Ipswich's attack that they need? They are struggling at the moment, finding some goals.
Yeah, I really do hope so. And it kind of came out of nowhere because we expected him to be back in December, I think, in mid-December. And he was suddenly on the bench for this game, which was a big surprise. But, you know, it was good to see him back. You know, he's had his critics over the last few months for certain things that we won't mention. But I think that he offers something. He's probably our best striker, I'd say. You know, that goal that he scored, it was a lovely finish. You know, he struggled last year with one-on-ones, but he looked really confident finishing that. So that's good to see. But, yeah, I think he's come back at quite an important time because I think Hawkins, he doesn't cut it for me. I think his hold-up play is good, but for someone who's massively tall, he doesn't really give us threat, really. Yeah, like, you don't see him scoring at all, do you? You'd expect us to be putting it down the wing and putting it in the box and he'd be scoring headers for fun, but it just doesn't happen. I don't think he can cut it. So I think putting Norwood back in there will really help, and hopefully that will help us score goals because, you know, we've had striker problems. We've had one striker fit for a while, so to have him back, I'm really pleased with that.
Yes, I'm really pleased as well. But I just remember something. Kane Fitzgerald's not even back. Where's he gone? He's disappeared off the face of the earth.
I know. I don't know where he's gone, and I hope he'll be back soon. But he played in pre-season and he was supposed to be back after like a month, and now it's nearly December and he's not back yet. So bit of a worry. That always happens.
Always has. Bring back Kane Fitzgerald soon. I think that's what we should say. Well, moving on to another cup game on Tuesday. Ipswich were back in the cup, but this time for the Papa John's Trophy. Yes, I did say that right. Papa John's Trophy. What a name. And a young Blues side exited out of the cup after a 2-0 defeat to Crawley. Another cup exit for Town inside the same week. It's not looking great.
No, it isn't. You know, I care a bit less about this cup competition. Obviously, it's not really. It's a stupid. I don't know why it went ahead this year. To be honest, I think it should have just been cancelled for this year, because you know the schedule's quite tight. But yeah, you could tell straight from the off. As soon as the team come out, that was it. You're like, we don't care about this competition. We don't want to go to Wembley this year. We just want to focus on the league, which I don't really care about, to be honest. But you know, it's just depressing. I think the team he put out was so young that people were paying £10 to watch an under-23 friendly, pretty much. But yeah, you know, coming up against Crawley, I don't think they really put out their strongest squad. I think their manager, Crawley's manager, decided that he didn't want to be on the sidelines and he was going to do some commentating with the local radio, which is a bit strange. But yeah, that's how much people don't really care about this cup competition. But I think overall there was some good performances from our youngsters. You know, there was a few players that I picked out that did some good things, but we never really looked like winning the game. And Crawley, their striker looked on fire, so they went through. We finished bottom of our group. You know, lost to Arsenal under 21s and Crawley, beat Gillingham, but bottom of the group and out. But that gives no excuse for Lambert in the league now.
Yeah, maybe Lambert does need to take some advice off that Crawley manager, just going off to do some commentary, you know?
Yeah.
Maybe he should start doing it. But Lambert, he named a side, an average age of 18 years old, only 2 senior players, like I say, in the side that have played some competitive games season. Cornell and Bennett, they kept their places. But Lambert said after the game, those players have done themselves proud, their families and the club as well. Despite losing 2-0, which is quite a disappointing result for them. But it's a good experience for these lads. And as you said there, who has impressed you the most out of those players? Because they could possibly, we're looking at Ipswich's future here.
Yeah, we are. The one good thing about this game was we could kind of look at players that we haven't seen before and then look at the future. And there was a few players that I picked out that I think are probably closer than some of the others. I think in the two midfield, I think Liam Gibbs, he's looking really good. He played in the cup against Colchester last season, I think, and he's looking a really good midfielder. I think he's close. I think the other midfielder, I can't pronounce his name, Tawanda Chirewa, I think you pronounced it. He looks like a really good player as well. I think he just signed a pro contract, so I think he shows some good stuff. And I think the player that impressed me the most was a player that came off the bench, Jack Manley. I think he's a player that I'd never heard of before. When I saw him I can't remember when he made a sub appearance on I think it was this competition last year as well. But he actually came on the pitch, and I think he's a winger, and he looks really, really good. He looks really impressive. So I'm really excited to see how he does, because I think he's only 16 at the moment, maybe 15, I can't remember. But yeah, Jack Manley really impressed me, and the other two midfielders as well. I think they're probably the closest for me. Maybe Ross Crane. I think he showed some of the stuff he could do. He's probably not as close as the other players, but he impressed me as well. But yeah, it's them three that I'm excited about.
I was thinking that Ross Crane signed from Bury Town this season. We've seen he's made a few appearances. I think he came on the EFL Trophy against Gillingham, didn't he? Liam Gibbs, we've seen play before, possibly quite a bright midfielder for Town. But also Torrey Simpson's back in the side, something we haven't seen in a long, long time. But also a player that didn't make it there was Dobra. What? Lambert play him.
Yeah, well, the thing is, he was going to Albania under 21s, but in the last EFL Trophy game, Elkan Bagat, the centre back, who's loved in Indonesia, I think he's I can't remember how many Instagram followers he's got, but he's got loads. But he delayed his call up to the Indonesia under 21, so I don't know why they couldn't do that with Dobra, but I don't know. I'm worried that something's happening between Dobra and Lambert behind the scenes, because these were perfect opportunities, especially Portsmouth. It was a perfect opportunity for him to play, and he just didn't. He wasn't even in the 18, which was really surprising. And I hope that he'll be given his chance.
We hope so as well. We hope he hasn't fallen into this tough love approach like Luke Walton's had quite recently, and he's slowly come back inside. Hopefully, touch wood, he'll be back soon. Well, so it's just now out of all the cup competitions. The fans have labelled it as no excuses now. It's the league or nothing. Dan, do you feel that Lambert's playing a risky game, putting all his eggs in one basket? Because we saw what happened last season when he did that. It all went wrong. And if it does go wrong again, the consequences this time are going to be massive.
Yeah, they are. I think he is taking a risk. Obviously, we all know as fans that we want to concentrate on the league. But, last year, the same thing happened. We went out of cup competitions. We were saying the exact same thing. No excuses. We have to focus on the league now, and we need to get out of this league. And what happened? We finished 11th. So the same thing could happen again. We can't beat teams in the top six around us still. And we're now out of the cup competitions. It is literally the same as last season so far, isn't it? It's pretty much the same. So I think Lambert is taking a risk. People are saying that he might leave at Christmas. That is just not going to happen. I don't think Marcus, he signed a 5-year contract. I don't think we can afford the rest of his contract if we sack him. Maybe if we don't go up this year, he might get the sack, and Marcus Evans might think of another way, but he's not going to go before the end of this season. Definitely not. There's arguments among us fans whether he should still be at the club and if he's the right man to take us forward. I'm not sure he is, but he's not going to leave. So I'm going to keep my Lambert outs in for a little while. But yeah, I think he's definitely taken a risk, and I'm worried because we've got 2 games against Hull and Charlton coming up, and I think they're massive games for our season. They really are.
Are we saying they're going to be the league deciders? I know we're in November, and these are possibly league deciders already. Are we saying that now?
It's hard to say. Obviously, as you said, it's November, so I don't think we can say it's league deciders. But last year, we lost against these teams in around November, December time, and we dropped off completely, and that ruined us for the rest of the season. So, it's still really close in there. Obviously, we've kind of got a picture of what the top 8 is going to be. Whether we can stay inside that top 6, I'm not confident, because the way we've been playing the last few games, obviously we beat Gillingham and Crewe, not convincingly, and then we lost to all the other teams. I think it's 4 losses in 6 games. That's not promotion form, is it? So it does really worry me whether if we're going to stay in this top 6, because we've seen before that we can easily just bottle it and drop off. So I just hope that these 2 games against Hull and Charlton, we can get results, because I think if we can maybe get 4 points from them 2 games, it'll give the players confidence, and hopefully we can push on from there. But if we lose both them games like I expect us to, then I'm very worried.
Yes, very worrying times for Ipswich Town fans. A big few games coming up for them. The consequences are going to be massive if everything loses. But when we come back, we're going to be talking about the Premier League getting week 8 just before the international break. Let's see what happens.
Pitchside Talk on IO Radio.
Well, welcome back to Pitchside Talk here on IO Radio. It's Fridays at 5 p.m. with me, George, and Dan, as always. And before we move into the Premier League, I better mention our social medias: Twitter at Pitchside Talk, Instagram Talk_Pitch, YouTube and Mixcloud, both on Pitchside Talk. If you want to listen back to any of our previous shows or even this one, if you missed anything, if you've missed the Ipswich Town section, don't worry. It'll be up Fridays at 6 p.m. straight after the show. And now we're moving into the Premier League, kicking off 8 week just before the international break. All 20 teams were in action. 24 goals were scored across those 10 matches. And starting off with Friday night football, it was a 0-0 draw for Brighton versus Burnley. This is Burnley's lowest tally of 2 points since the 77 season/78 season, the first 7 games. Southampton versus Newcastle, that finished 2-0 Southampton. At the time, Southampton went to the top of the league the first time in 32 years, and they put out a very good tweet in saying, "Stop the count." Unfortunately, the count didn't stop. Moving on to Saturday lunchtime, Everton lost 3-1 to Manchester United for the first time in Ancelotti's, first time in 14 years. Ancelotti has lost 3 consecutive games in a row, and that was with AC Milan in September of 2006. Crystal Palace won 4-1 against Leeds. Not a very good time for Leeds fans at the moment. Chelsea won 4-1 against Sheffield United. Sheffield United have only got 1 point from the last 8 games. It's the joint lowest tally ever. And the teams that had 1 point by this stage of the season, a few of them have been relegated. Man City are relegated in the 95/96 season, and Sheffield Wednesday as well in the 99/2000 season. So history looked like it might repeat for them as well. Oh my God, I can't speak. West Ham won 1-0 against Fulham. Fulham have only just won 1 game away from home in the last 25, and that was against Bournemouth in April 2019. Tottenham won 1-0 against West Brom. Leicester won 1-0 against Wolves. That is Leicester's best start to a season ever in their history, 18 points from 8 games. Manchester City drawed 1-1 with Liverpool, and Arsenal lost 3-0 to Aston Villa. Aston Villa won the first ever time in their history, their first 3-way games. Whew, bit of a mouthful, Dan. But starting off with the winners, Leicester, a Jamie Vardy penalty sends them to the top of the table, of the Premier League table. A perfect week, really, for the Foxes. 3 games, 3 wins. Rodgers labelling his side as outstanding. With all the top sides dropping points this season, and Leicester winning their games left, right and centre, can we generally say Leicester are now a title contender in this season? That's unpredictable. And Leicester won the Premier League before, so we can't write them off.
No, you can't write them off. But I don't know. I just think that this league is so unpredictable. You can't really say who's going to be a title challenger. Obviously, Leicester are top of the league, and all the teams around them are dropping points. So you could say that they're in contention, but it's still too early for me. Teams. It's still really close in the top, whatever it is, top 9 or 10, or 6, top 6.
I don't know. It's tight everywhere.
No, it's tight everywhere. So Leicester could lose a game, and teams around them, pick up points, and they could be down to 5th again. So Leicester are doing really well, and they've looked really good. They've 3 big wins, and they've looked great this season. I mean, they thrashed Man City, which at the Etihad as well, which is mad. But I just think it's too early to decide. It's only November, and the table's really close together. So I just think it's too early. But Leicester themselves may think that they've got a chance. They've looked good for the last few seasons. They were unfortunate to not get in Europe last year. After lockdown, they kind of just dropped off. They didn't have the momentum. Whether they can carry on with this form this season, we'll have to wait and see. But still too early for me.
Well, we will have to wait and see. I know you said it's too early, but the last time they won the league, it was a crazy season anyway, and they were leading the league by this stage of the season. So, and this side looks stronger than that side. So surely we're saying they can, or not. It's hard.
It is hard. I don't know. Maybe the difference. I think it's closer than that season. I can't really remember. I think teams are closer together. But yeah, that was a crazy season. So yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe they can do it again. But I don't know. I've just got that feeling that they're not going to. I just think Liverpool are going to win the league. That's all.
Well, we'll move on to the side. Then they're second place in the league, and that is Spurs, not Liverpool. Spurs. Another late goal got Jose Mourinho's side 3 points thanks to Harry Kane. He's now scored 150 goals or something for Spurs in the Premier League. Absolutely bonkers stats. I think only Shearer and Aguero have scored those goals quicker in appearances. So that's absolutely mad. But putting Spurs briefly first for about 90 minutes until Leicester won. But can we say that Spurs are title challengers? Or are they more strong top 4 contenders? Mourinho praising aside, they're getting wins from performances that haven't been too great this season. We've seen them scrape points. We saw it against Burnley and Brighton. They have dropped points across the season in draws. But with other sides not performing like Man City, United and Arsenal, this could be their best chance.
It could. I hate to say that teams are title contenders because I predicted that Aston Villa were going to get relegated. I mean, I was so wrong about that. This season's just so unpredictable for me, but they've got a good chance. Kane is on an absolute fire at the moment. Could be the best striker in the Premier League at the moment. So they've got every chance. I think they're doing well at the moment under Mourinho. I think they're looking better than they did last year, which is an improvement for them because last year I think it was just, I don't know, maybe just. I think that the thing with Tottenham is their transfer business. That's what I'm trying to say. Their transfer business isn't fantastic, but I think this year they haven't really done much, but they've looked much better. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but I think Tottenham are top 4 contenders. I think under Mourinho that I don't know what I'm trying to say about Tottenham.
Sorry to help you.
All I'm trying to say is I don't want to say that they're going to be title contenders. I'm trying not to say that, okay? But screw it, they're going to be title contenders.
Is it because of the Mourinho factor?
Yeah,
that they're going to be title contenders. Is that why? Because Mourinho's there. He's won titles. He'd done it with Chelsea. He didn't unfortunately do it with Manchester United, but he got them to second, which he said was the best thing he could have ever done for them. But is it because it's Mourinho? You don't know with him.
Yeah, I think that's the reason why I couldn't think of what to say about Tottenham, is because you just don't know with Mourinho, because he could be world class, but then he could do what he did at United, and everyone hates him again. So, I think that Tottenham will probably stay in this top four race, and I think Mourinho, if Tottenham can finish in the top four, Mourinho will be a hero for them. But it could all go wrong for him. God, that was hard to get through, wasn't it? Bloody hell.
Well, I hope this one's a bit easier, because we're now moving on to the losers and starting off with Leeds United. Bielsa's side looks like they've hit a brick wall at the moment, really. 2 defeats in a row, both of them being 4-1. Bielsa describing this defeat as a fair defeat. With an international break coming up, will we possibly see a more defensive Leeds, a different Leeds? They look a little bit more focused defensively, because they are leaking goals at the back. I know we sort of were expecting that from Leeds. They're going to score goals but leak a lot at the back. Or is it more down to not having Calvin Phillips in that side? Because he's been a very good player for them this season, and he's been injured for the last 2 games.
Yeah, he has. He's a big player for them, and it's quite surprising how Leeds have kind of dropped off from their form that they had, because they started really well. They went up against the champions at first game and did really well, and from there they kept getting results, but they've kind of dropped off now. At the start of the season, I said that they'll be mid-table, but who could have predicted what would happen in the Premier League this year? But I think they still have enough in them. I think they do leak goals. That's the thing. They've conceded a lot of goals, but then they score goals as well. Bamford's on good form at the moment. I thought he was a striker that couldn't cut it in the Premier League, and he's been doing pretty well. But I think Bielsa probably does need to make some changes going into the start of the season again after international break. Because I think they'll maybe be more defensive, as you said, because they've been struggling in that area. I still think they're safe, obviously, because the bottom is kind of separated now. There's kind of a gap, so I think they're fine. I think the start that they've had has kind of helped them to be able to get that gap to the bottom. I think they'll be fine finishing mid-table, but I still think there's some work to do for them.
Yes, we'll have to wait and see if they'll be a little more defensive, because their next game is against Arsenal. And Arsenal haven't been looking too great themselves, really, so they might not need to be defensive. But moving on to another side that got promoted from the Championship, in second place was West Brom. And life of Slaven Bilic hasn't been easy as a West Brom manager. His side hasn't won a game in the Premier League. The only game they've won this season is against Harrogate Town in the Carabao Cup. No Ivanovic or Pereira because of COVID-19 after positive test, so we wish them to get well soon. Worst start in 35 years, but Bilic was happier with his side after they lost to Fulham, saying his side, the wins will come, but do the wins need to come sooner rather than later? Because they are in 18th. They're only 1 point away from safety, but they're only 2 points away from being down the bottom.
Yeah, I was very surprised by Bilic's comments, because I think after that many games and the way that they've started, I would not be happy if I was a West Brom fan. Obviously, the worst start in how many years did you say?
35.
35. So it's been a poor start. So I'm quite surprised with the way he came out and said that. But Bilic, he did well for West Ham when he was there, and I think he's a great manager. And I think in the Premier League, he's a good Premier League manager, but I don't think West Brom's squad is good enough. I think, they signed Dejan Garner from West Ham. They had him in the Championship. I think they signed Carlin Grant from Huddersfield, who played in the Championship last year for a team that were down the bottom pretty much all of last season. So I don't think their squad is good enough. I don't think they made the right signings, and I'm not surprised that they've had such a poor start, to be honest. There's a lot of work to do for Bilic at West Brom, and I think they'll stick with him. I think they'll have trust in him, but if they get relegated again, which it's possible that they will do. Who knows? But yeah, a lot of work to do for them, but I don't think they have enough in them to stay up this year.
Yes, we'll have to wait and see. It's still quite a topsy-turvy Premier League. At the moment, they're only 1 point away from safety, so we'll have to wait and see. Well, moving on to the Premier League table after these results, and starting off in 20th is Sheffield United down the bottom of the table now on 1 point. Burnley move up to 19th with 2 points. West Brom stay 18th with 3. Fulham stay 17th with 4 points. Brighton stay 16th, with 6 points. Leeds go down to 15th on 10 points. Manchester United have moved up to a mighty 14th with 10 points. 13th is Newcastle with 11. They move down there. West Ham move up to 12th with 11 points. Arsenal move down to 11th with 12. Manchester City stay 10th with 12 points. Wolves go down to 9th with 13. Palace up to 8th with 13 points. Everton down to 7th with 13 points. Aston Villa up to 6th with 15 points. Chelsea up to 5th with 15 points. Southampton up to 4th with 16. Liverpool down to 3rd with 17 points. Tottenham up to 2nd with 17. And Leicester are leading the way on a mighty 18 points. Whew, that is such a tight four. A tight top 6 in the Premier League. And when we come back, we're going to be reflecting on the most tightest championship season I think we've had in years.
The best place in Ipswich to hear the latest football debates, Pitchside Talk on IO Radio.
Well, welcome back to Pitchside Talk here on IO Radio. It's Fridays at 5 p.m. with me, George, and Dan, as always. And before we move on to our next section, which is the championship, I better mention our social medias. Twitter at Pitchside Talk, Instagram Talk_Pitch, YouTube Mixcloud Pitchside Talk if you want to listen back to any of our previous shows, or even this one. This will be up Fridays at 6 p.m. if you missed anything from the Premier League or the Ipswich Town section. Well, listen back, please. Now, the championship this season has been action-packed, full of drama, with Reading leading the way just by 1 point after making a great start after finishing 14th last season. They've lost their last 3 in a row and have been chased by the last season's relegated teams in the Premier League in Watford in 2nd, Norwich in 3rd, and Bournemouth in 4th. Dan didn't like me saying Norwich in 3rd, but unfortunately they are 3rd, and that is the facts. We cannot stop the counts on that one there. But however, at the bottom of the table, there is a huge battle to escape the drop with Derby County. I'm sorry, Harry, if you listen to this. This is my mate Harry. He doesn't like this when I talk about Derby County. But they're sitting bottom of the table, foot of the table, 1 win in 11 games. Sheffield Wednesday, who had a minus 12 points deduction, are currently in 23rd as they got back up to 6 points because they had a few of them points given back to them after an appeal was gone through. But we've had some massive sackings this season. Barnsley has sacked their manager and Nottingham Forest, both on the same day, which is a little bit weird. But, you know, they weren't doing too well after some poor start to the season. But most recently, we've had Gary Monk. He got sacked by Sheffield Wednesday. Despite having that point deduction, he's done quite well to get back up to 6 points on nearly about, I think, 2 points away from safety so far. Monk has said the situation, he feels disappointed by it, and he's saying he was meeting his targets for this stage of the season. But bombshell moment, Dan. Tony Pearce is the front runner for the Sheffield Wednesday job. That's just ironic, isn't it?
Yep, it is. You know, it's so predictable, isn't it? You just expected names like that to be put around, and of course his name's been put in there, and he looks like the favourite too. So it's a safe option. He'll keep them up, but he won't do well with he won't do anything with them in the future, I don't think. Pulis, you know, he's good at scraping 1-0 wins, but can he get teams promoted? Maybe. I don't know. He kind of fell off with Middlesbrough, didn't he?
Yes, he did, unfortunately. But now we're going to just do a little bit of reflection now back on this chaotic and drama-filled season of the Championship. I'm going to ask you, who's had the best start in the Championship? I think we know who it's going to be, but who has had it?
Yeah, so it's pretty obvious, isn't it? The best start has been Reading. You know, they've had a fantastic start. They may have lost the last 3 games in the league, but before that, they hadn't lost a game, which is fantastic. You know, it was quite a surprise. I think, you know, over the last few years, they've kind of improved their squad little by little, and I think overall now they have a really good squad. You know, players like Lucas Zhao, I think, is a great player. Ajaria as well. I think they signed him permanently from Liverpool. He's a fantastic player. He looks really skillful on the ball. I can't remember, Elise, I think his name is, or Elise. I think he's a fantastic player as well. So yeah, they've got some fantastic players, and I can't remember their coach's name. I think I said it was Vladimir something, but I think that's the Watford manager. I think I made a mistake, but I think they've got a up and coming European manager who may have had a lot of experience in the Championship before, but he seems to be able to get the most out of his players so far. So the teams behind them are catching up, but they could carry on this run. I think they've got a good squad, and we'll have to wait and see if they can finish in the top 6. I don't think they'll finish in the top 2, but playoffs is definitely possible for them.
I think his surname, and I'm sorry, I think I'm going to butcher this. I think it's Apunovic, something like that. I think I might have just said that wrong, but that's the closest I'm going to get.
Oh, there you go. Veljko Paunovic.
Paunovic, there we go. I was close for once. Yeah. But Dan, who's had the worst start in the Championship? I think we know who's going to be. I'm going to apologise. Yeah. Sorry, Harry.
Yeah, well, I think the biggest surprise in the Championship is Derby. I think it's a massive surprise for me because they've been a team that have been in and around the playoffs for absolutely ages now. They've got the name as the bottlers in the Championship, haven't they? They always make the playoffs or just miss out and never get promoted. But I thought they're going to be up there again easily because they've got a good squad. But I don't know what's happened to them. I think they've won one game. That was away to Norwich. I think Rooney scored that free kick, and that's it. I don't know. I think maybe with Derby, they've got good squad players, but I don't think they work well as a team. I think they've got a lot of young players coming through. I think the midfield in particular have got very, very good young players. They sold Jack Marriott to Sheffield Wednesday, which was a bit strange of a sell-in for me, but fair enough. So I think, they've got good individual players. Tom Lawrence, Martin Waghorn, Wayne Rooney, obviously. Dwayne Holmes, the winger as well, the American. They've got Josh Knight as well, a youngster coming through their ranks as well. So they've got some quality players, but do they work well as a team? From what I've seen so far, no. And I'm quite surprised that Philip Cocu is still there, to be honest. I would have expected him to be sacked by now. Obviously, maybe they've got trust in him that he can get out of this, but from what I've seen of Derby this year, they just haven't been good. And I don't think it'll be long until Cocu leaves, to be honest.
Well, it'd be interesting to see what happens, really, because they've got possibly the Sheikh Mansour's cousin. He's looking to buy them. So they need to be doing something, right? Because if not, he's not going to buy them and they're not going to get that investment, are they? But
no.
Was it Bogle went as well? He went to Sheffield United as well.
And Jason Lowe as well. They both went to Sheffield United, didn't they?
Yeah. Not looking too great for Derby this season. But Dan, I'm going to ask you probably I think the hardest question in football. What can we expect from the rest of this Championship season? This is like trying to predict the top 2 is the hardest thing in football, I think.
Yeah. The Championship is the hardest league to predict, and that's why I think that it's one of the best leagues in the world, just not quality-wise, but just for the fact that it's so unpredictable and so many, just so much drama happens in the Championship. And as an Ipswich fan, I really miss the Championship because I think it's just, I love the Championship. But I think one of the things that we really can predict, I think, is the 3 teams below Reading, Watford, Norwich and Bournemouth. I think they'll probably be in and around that top 3. The relegated teams have had good starts. I think Norwich had quite a slow start, but they've kind of come back into it. I think Watford, they're looking really good. Some of the players they've got are Premier League players. And that young João Pedro, he looks fantastic. So they've got a really good squad. Bournemouth, they haven't really sold any of their players except Wilson, have they? They've still got Dominic Solanke playing in the Championship, which I think is mad. And I think was it Dan Juma maybe as well. I think he played in the Premier League. I don't know if is Jefferson Lerma still there as well.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
Nathan Ake went to Manchester City and Ramsdale. So there's a few players.
Yes, a few players left, but they've still got quite a lot of their squad. So I think them 3 teams will definitely be up there. I can't predict the top 4. I really can't, because I'd say Brentford were going to have an amazing start. They signed Ivan Toney. They may have sold 2 of their best players, but they replaced them with some good players. But they've had quite an underwhelming start. I think they're 11th at the moment. 3 points off the playoffs, but is it 3 or 2? I can't remember, but
3.
3. But yeah, they've had quite an underwhelming start. So they can still finish in the playoffs, and I expect them to. But the other 3 teams, maybe Reading will be there, Bristol City might be there. I think Swansea maybe as well. There's a lot of teams that could be in and around the playoffs, and it's impossible to predict. But the other thing I'll predict, which I'm pretty certain about, is Wickham getting relegated.
Oh, okay. You're pretty certain about that, but I think basically everybody apart from Wigan's in your chance of getting promoted this season, yeah? Shall we say?
Yeah, even Derby.
Even Derby? Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Okay, right. Harry, are you happy now? Well, when we come back from whatever that was, the most unexpected championship talk I think we've ever done in our lives, we might get a little bit of time to football roundup, hopefully.
Pitchside Talk, footy debate from the Premier League Outback.
Well, welcome back to Pitchside Talk here on our radios, Fridays at 5 p.m. with me, George, and Dan, as always. And Dan, we must mention this quickly. We've got a quick football roundup before the referee makes a bad decision, blows his whistle for full time, somebody scores from an offside position, and the penalty's not given. Do you like the sound of that?
No, but we'll do it. We'll go anyway.
Okay, we'll go anyway. My bit of football roundup news is that apparently Cristiano Ronaldo is considering a return to Manchester United, according to various reports around the world. The Juventus deal is not working out for him. It isn't the match made in heaven. I think he wasn't very happy under Maurizio Sarri anyway. But it is now looking like he will be leaving soon. The 35-year-old could be returned back to the Premier League. I think that would be a fantastic move for him to come back to the Premier League. Maybe not with Manchester United. I feel that's not the club you should be going to.
Of course you'd say that. Of course you'd say that.
No. The reason I say that is because Man U are not in a good position. And Man U don't need attackers. They need defenders if they want to succeed. But they don't think like that. It's ridiculous. But yeah, that's my bit of football roundup news. What about you, Dan? Have you got anything for us?
I've got a bit of Ipswich news. It came out this morning. Lambert after the Lincoln game, he made certain comments about the referee. He got fined for that this morning. So
anyway,
Lambert getting fined for it, and we'll get fined for the squad we put out against Crawley as well. So money being thrown away by Ipswich.
As always, they can throw away this money, but they can't buy anybody. But, we can throw an extra $2,000 here and there. Don't worry about it. Well, that is everything really for this week's show on Pitchside Talk. I want to thank Dan for being on the show this week. Dan, you're not going to be here next week. You're going to be away.
I'm on international break. So I won't be here, which, it's annoying, but I'll be back in 2 weeks' time. Don't worry.
You'll be back when we talk about, we'll be talking about the Shrewsbury game and the whole game.
Oh, no.
To return.
I'm scared.
Don't be scared. It'll all be fine, that's what Paul Lambert will say. Well, before we leave, I better mention our social medias. Twitter at Pitchside Talk, Instagram Talk_Pitch, YouTube Mixcloud Pitchside Talk. If you want us back to any of our previous shows. So this one will be up in a few minutes, actually, 6 p.m. It'll all be up if you missed anything out of today's show. And what is coming up after us here on iReg, well, we've got the Gap Year show, 6 till 7, the Rebirth show, 7 till 9, and Flip the Switch, 9 until 10. Well, we got through that chaotic show. I don't know what we're going to be talking about next week. I'm going to be lost. I'm going to see if I can draft in some special guests. I'm going to do
some loan signings or that.
Emergency loans. I'll be using my token. Emergency loans. I'll see what I can do. Well, we've got international duty. So we'll be talking about England, as always, because England will be doing England things, losing and drawing and sometimes winning. But you never know with England. But, well, we'll find out next week. I've been George. He's been Dan, as always. We'll see you next week. And ciao.
See ya.
The whistle has been blown for full time. Tune in next week for another jam-packed show.